Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have tonight another scene in the Mage venue for the Living World of Darkness game. We see beforehand, before this very scene, there is a interchange of calls and numbers and a request by one legal student to get better acquainted with how corpses and bodies are processed by the coroner's office. He asks simply out of an educational interest. This particular person, like I said, being a legal student, after some back and forth, there is an arrangement made between one of the coroner technicians for one Jericho Ugma, also known as Jack Stevens, to meet with this Tom Dooley. Just after Jericho's own shift comes to an end. It is here that we begin the scene with Tom Dooley within one of the waiting rooms of the coroner's office, simply biding his time until he's picked up by the one Jericho who has yet to actually get off. And there we begin the scene.
And Tom will ensure that he has his notebook and a tape recorder. He has a list of questions as well as some notes from his other portions of his essay, which is on the excuse me a second while I look up the name again. Sorry. The subject of the essay is going to be sorry, it's about the overseers of the justice system and how they help to make the system work. Essentially is what it is. I won't have to find the name and possibly make an addendum in a few. But that's what Tom's doing.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. After not too awfully long, a man in jeans and in running shoes goes ahead and makes his presence known. Looks over to the man. He's got a far off look in his eyes. He's also got sunken in marks under his eyes, like he's got heavy bags, as if he's been doing this for a lot longer than he'd ought to. And his skin is especially plaid, pale right now. He will just simply go up ahead and walk up to you and simply say, you the student that needs to do the research?
Yes, sir. Tom Dooley. It's a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. I'm Jericho. It's nice to meet you too. He goes ahead and extends the hand out.
And Tom will shake it very nicely. The psychology of the modern judicial overseer is the name of his essay.
Jericho goes ahead and nods his head. Okay. How do you feel about getting something like, because I usually do interviews about anything I do, so I might do this a little bit more informally than you're used to. So how about we? What do you want? What do you want to grab? What do you want to get for some food?
Well, how do you feel about sushi?
I could do sushi.
Okay. Um, since you're being very kind and helping me with my essay, um, how about I treat you?
Yeah. Sure. That sounds awesome.
Okay. I'm. I brought my van if you need a ride or if you know a place I can meet you there.
No. I know a place. It's only So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to OT 77. That is a one of the bigger skyscrapers, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk into the lobby. Third floor. There happens to be a small cafe there, and afterwards there is this Asian buffet place. Usually they let people in even at this late at night. They're usually more concerned about elevators and the like. So yeah, just follow me.
Oh,
Jericho's gonna go ahead and start to walk out. He has on his back a backpack of sorts. He seems to be more dressed down. Uh, but that's mostly because he's been at this type of work for a long time, and he's not presenting himself. This
um,
isn't presentation time. This was, let's spend like 8 hours on our feet type time.
yeah. Um, excuse me. How may I address you for the interview?
Just call me Jericho, okay?
Okay. Jericho, I'm sorry. Haven't I met you before at the cafeteria of NYU?
Jericho goes ahead and racks his brains a little bit. Maybe.
Oh, well, it's very nice to meet you again. And you'll you'll see Tom kind of attach himself to a lift in a van, and he'll just kind of strap himself in and close the doors and say, "Go ahead, I'll follow you."
Uh, okay. Jericho is. First off, Jericho is going to go ahead and get to the driver's side. Go ahead and point a parking lot just a few blocks away. And Jericho's going to say, I'm going to meet you over there, okay?
Oh, sure. Um,
Jericho, for his part, is simply going to walk the few blocks.
hmm Tom is still rather new to New York, so he's not really aware of how close or far away certain things are. So he'll drive, sort of feel a bit silly, and park the car somewhere or van somewhere and hop out again. Sorry, I didn't realize it was so close.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Jericho looks at the man in the wheelchair and simply says, do you, do you got it or do you need help from me?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I've done this a couple times, and he'll unstrap himself from the moorings, you might say, and get himself on the lift again, and close and lock his van afterwards. There we go. So he'll sort of go alongside you in his chair.
Jericho, for his part, is simply going to go ahead and walk up to the side entrance of this particular building. Go ahead and open up. And without nary a fuss, without nary a extra detail to be had, they make their way up to the third floor, and they make their way up to one of the sushi bars. Actually, they make their way up into a particular booth that Jericho quite likes to have. He thinks to himself maybe the Mexican place would have been better, but he wanted sushi, so there you go.
Tom doesn't seem very perturbed.
Okay. So, you say you saw me back over at the university, did you?
Yes, we were having a very pleasant conversation on um, philosophy, if I remember correctly.
No, philosophy. What was I talking about then?
Um, Tom is actually going to roll a memory check, because it's part of his disability, and he didn't spend any time to meditate on the issue, so we have to see if he can remember. Apparently he can. Now, out of character, do you remember, or...
We're talking about that scene where that guy went missing?
Yeah, but before that it was actually quite pleasant. And he's not being, like, super stupid and obvious, like, hey, you're that other mage guy. It's just, he just, well, I think, I think I met you at the university, just what an average,
Okay.
average friendly statement.
Right. Fair dues. What Jericho was mostly talking about is cosmic theory.
Right.
The interactions of universes, galaxies, all that wonderful fun stuff that you'll usually find in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of the Universe, which is a fantastic book if anybody wants to just bust that out for general hilarity.
I believe you were more discussing things on the side of cosmic theory, I think, was your side of the discussion.
Yeah. Strange, considering what my work is. Did you know?
I mean, I think in spite of whatever one's environment is in this phase of life, they're they're entitled to think and feel whatever they like.
Okay. What do you think about the universe, life, and everything?
I think that somewhere between the ideas of science and spiritualism, there's a place of coexistence, because science and education is an important thing. However, I'm not prepared to deny the ever subtle involvement of a more celestial existence, sort of helping things along from behind the scenes.
You say celestial, but I don't think you mean stellar when you say that. I don't think you're talking about the constellations or any of the other great bodies in the heavens.
They're involved, of course, as it's all part of creation, um, by the will of the gods, as it were.
Okay, fair enough. I guess there can be a line. Lines have been drawn before. I know that one particular theory, the Big Bang Theory, one particular pope was asked to comment on that one. What he pretty much said was science has the total purview to discuss, theorize, and make measurements of events after the Big Bang, but not beforehand. At which point scientists are actually in agreement with, because they literally can't theorize about what the universe would have been like before the Big Bang, because essentially that's where time begins. So I guess in that one instance, it's a very, very thick and hard barrier, but it's there.
I would more or less perhaps go slightly further in what I said and say that um, the divine have sown the seeds of the foundations of existence. Science is one of the rules within their framework.
Okay, fair dues, fair dues. So, in your case, anyways, we have a clockwork deity. You're more a theist, actually. The idea that there may have been a divine creator that set up the universe, but it doesn't really interfere. He more lets things progress and evolve as they are wont to do. Or are you talking about something totally differently?
Um, I would say that the gods, especially when mankind was younger, you saw people having more of a solid connection with them. But it's sort of like a parent in a way, or like a divine family. As they observe their children grow, they sort of allow them to make their own choices, and they're there. I firmly believe that they are there, but they may only act in subtle ways, or especially if asked.
Okay. So what you're really getting at is at one point or another, there may have been a lot of interaction between otherworldly, divine creators who set up the universe. They interacted with man loads and loads and loads, but the world we see now sees much less involvement, if any involvement, in whatever divine beings that are out there.
Oh, I'm sure that they do, but they might only move in very subtle ways because we, as their earthbound children, have sort of ignored them or tried to pretend that they're not there. And rather than being angry and interfering and combative, they just sort of are allowing us to come back to them in our own time.
So humanity is sort of like an angry female teenager that has locked itself in a room, and God is just simply waiting outside for her to come towards him.
Well, I don't know about the angry teenage girl thing, but it's one way to look at it. See, I think that humanity has gotten itself stuck in this area of extremes. You either have to fully believe in science to the exclusion of the idea of faith in divinity and other such things, or you have to believe in faith in some such to the exclusion of science and reason and reason. When in fact a more healthy way to look at it is somewhere in the middle, where faith and those connected to it may have created the world and used a formula to give us the very best gift they could. And we, as their children, are just gradually discovering these various gifts.
Yeah, you use the word children quite often. I'm not sure that I'm anyone's child anymore.
Well, it's sort of like how most families will say something to the effect of, no matter how old you get, you'll always be my son/daughter, kind of a thing. It's sort of like that.
Jared goes ahead and scratches his head and simply responds, mm, I was an only child. My parents didn't really dote on me that well. They went ahead and paid for college and most of medical school, though, which was pretty damn nice of them.
It it seems you and I have a lot in common in that regard. I've I've gradually been sort of creating my own family, as it were.
Well, here is the thing. In the 21st century, young adults will make their own family. They're no longer restricted to the family unit that they were born into. People will just gravitate towards each other in cliques, and that's a basic family unit. I know that a few of my roommates have formed that kind of relationship. Not familiar, but quite platonic.
And Tom will just sort of nod his understanding, but interestingly doesn't add to that, although he seems to appreciate what Jericho is saying.
Here is an example, my good sir. One of my roommates, I don't talk to that often, but we're always kind of cool. He's always willing to bounce ideas off. Uh, Another one of my roommates, I yell and cry at him constantly, but he gives me the same kind of treatment back. We're like two brothers that always butt heads over things, but we usually come to some sort of accord afterwards. That's a and I know for a fact he has my back when things go down. He and I have been through some rough things before, been in some hairy situations we didn't think we could get out of, but that helped form that particular friendship. Another one, the only female hates when me and him fight. So she's always trying to bring us down, get us back from biting each other's throats. It's actually really cool.
See, I mean this in the most respectful way possible, of course, but she kind of sounds like the group mom.
She kind of is. She makes food for the rest of us when we forget to.
Aw. Well, I'm glad you have that kind of relationship.
Eh, like I said, young adults in the 21st century will make their own families. It's just our friends are our new families. Who we live with, who we choose to live with,
Um, well, I
the
don't
kind of
know.
people that we'll get to know over the years.
I don't necessarily know that. Again, we come to a place where I don't know if there has to be areas of extremes. I know for some people, such as myself, I need to create my own family because I know for a fact that my family, in fact, hates me. I was the unwanted child, and
Well,
so I've absorbed myself in education and tried to. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to earn someone else's approval, but ever since I came to New York, I do this because it's what I want to do, and that goes for the other element of my life as well. It's quite liberating.
How long you been in New York?
Um, I think we're approaching about a month and a half, give or take.
Alright, cool. What have you
So,
learned in that time?
quite a bit. Some of which obviously I can't talk about here, but
Uh, fair dues, but just like the general stuff, like what life lessons have you learned?
well, just um, I don't, I don't need, I don't need my biological family. I, I have the building blocks of my own life here in New York. If things go well, I might um see about getting a dual citizenship. Um, you know, I and just how precious the relationships I do have are, even if sometimes certain ones just drive me up the wall. They're still pretty precious.
Yeah, yeah. As for myself, what have I learned in New York? I've learned that in New York, a lot of stuff happens. And the key to surviving is to figure out what exactly is your problem, if it's your problem. If something is happening and it's not your problem, there's no reason to get involved. A lot of people have a lot of issues that they're currently dealing with. Hell, just within, Jericho looks around, 100 square feet from my current position, I guarantee you that some people are going through relationship issues. I guarantee you that somebody's going through money issues, and I guarantee you that somebody just wants to end it all.
That's terrible. Or I hope someone is able to reach out to that person.
Hmm.
Not very good. But we're diverging from the intent of this evening. So it's always nice to get to know people more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I I wanted to share with you, in essence, what the topic of my essay is and why I very much wanted to um, a- ask you to meet with me. Um,
Well, I'm here because you asked for an interview. So
um,
I'm here as an interviewee to answer your questions as best of my abilities.
well, yes, of course. But I wanted to just offer you full disclosure as to what the essay is going to be about, and so that you know in advance the sorts of questions I might ask and whether you would like to answer them or not.
Hmm, fair dues.
Um, it's a paper on the psychology of the modern judicial overseer. I'm I've presently done some analysis on the judge's side of things, but I think it's important to try and do a paper on an issue from several angles. So I think it's important to have a look at the viewpoints of someone that is perhaps more connected with the more intricate sides of an investigation and how that comes into play and how that all ties into the overall judicial system.
Well, Tom, I can tell you that I have the perspective of a shot glass on a table-wide schema, but I'm more than willing to give you that particular perspective that you are wanting.
Okay. Would you mind if I also use the tape recorder just so I don't
Um,
miss?
I would actually prefer that you made your own notes by hand. I hope that's
I
not a problem.
um I'll do my best. I might need to clarify something a couple of times because I do have some slight issues with my memory. So if I have to go back, I'll ask you to correct me if we need to.
Thank you.
That's quite all right. Um. So so um. Could you tell me for the essay how to spell your name, please?
Just go by my nickname. It's easier to remember, and most of the documents that I sign use it. Go with the JACK.
Okay. Now, is there a doctor in front of that, or?
No, sorry, no, not yet. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
write me down as a mortician technician.
Okay. Um, all right. And could you please share with me how long have you been in the profession?
I have been in the profession for a few years now. Two actually, one overseas and a few months now here. There was a pocket about 3 to 6 months that I was not working and mostly focusing on my craft. Let's just go ahead and say.
Understandable. Um, what drew you to this line of this element of the legal profession?
Well, I myself was a medical student for a few years. Got some of my residency done and over with, but I had a uh, I had a personal issue crop up on me that I couldn't deal with, so I couldn't finish my education all the way through. So I was most qualified for to do what they would call it, peripheral work. Not necessarily work on actual patients, but work around different patients. And they commented that I had always been a fantastic autopsy specialist. So when I came out of residency, most of my professors and resident doctors went ahead and gave me recommendations for the mortuarium. I did that for a number of different months, simply dressing up and dressing down bodies for burial, until I kind of brought the spark back to learn again and actually start to do decent work for people. Eventually, I found myself in a crime lab of sorts dealing with autopsies. After a short little while there, I found out that I'm being transferred over to New York via a few of my superiors, and I find a really cushy job here working in the New York PD. As far as what drew me here, I've always been a very, very fastidious note taker and fantastic lab work.
How, over the few years you've been involved with this, how how do you see your area of expertise fitting within the legal framework?
Okay. When it comes to building a homicide case, investigators will usually come up with physical evidence as well as witness testimony. I do sort of a bit of both. I deal with the biggest physical evidence that investigators usually have, which is the body. I'm the one that usually drums up and comes up with different leads for investigators to follow. The cause of death is a very, very important issue with many different cases. It turns a attempted murder into a premeditated murder simply with the presence of poison in somebody's system. That's what I bring to the table. I bring clarity and confirmation, as well as different leads for investigators to follow.
What are some...
Plus, it's a bit of busy work. It's something that just has to be done. Nobody wants to do it, but
Fair enough. How do you feel as far as the respect element from other practitioners of the legal profession, i.e. cops, defense attorneys, assistant DAs, and that sort of thing?
To be quite honest, I don't usually see DAs. I don't usually see lawyers. I do work very, very heavily in side-by-side detectives and the like. And the respect from them is, well, it's not disrespect. They take my reports as they are, and they don't diss me for doing something that they can't do.
Okay. Have you ever been called in to testify about any of your findings?
Recently, no. In New York City, I've been fairly fortunate, though at some point or another, I do expect to be walked in. Overseas, once I was asked to come into a legal proceeding to clarify a cause of death. Pretty much there was some confusion whether or not scratches over the face or scratches over the neck or the cuts or the wound. They were concerned that the cause of death was not specific enough. I put in many, many lacerations to the face and torso. They pretty much asked me to walk in, and the only confirmation I could give them was he was brutalized by a weapon, a very, very sharp weapon, a kitchen knife. That kitchen knife would match with this wound pattern, and in fact, if you look at the DNA evidence, that is the weapon that was used to kill that man. It's those kind of things, the really, really specifics, the confirmation of details that I usually get called out on.
So, based on this, I understand that your experience is limited in this particular area, but how do you feel that the other chapters of the legal um, system um, react to you? I mean, do you get a sense of mutual um, understanding or respect because you're both key elements to the same process, or do you find a lot of um, competition and combativeness, or how do you feel about these sorts of things?
When it comes right down to it, I am just an expert witness to most cases. They treat me as such. They ask me to come in, give my spiel, then do with my testimony as they are wont to do.
So
I can
you
definitely tell that they don't view me with competitiveness, that they don't view me with rivalry. They just view me as a thing, a bit of evidence, a testimony on record, an expert witness to go ahead and throw facts at the jury. Nothing more, nothing less.
um okay. Now, if you could say to a judge, or say to members of the alternate chapters of the judicial system, um, what's an example of something in your mind that works and something you might like to see changed, and why?
Something that works. Hmm. I couldn't really tell you. Something that I would like changed. Unfortunately, I can't tell you. I just don't know. I don't work with court proceedings that much. But you know what I would really like? I would really like for them to feed their witnesses before they go on the stand.
Tom's actually going to add that. Okay. Uh, but even, like, not specifically in a trial setting, I mean more as a collective adhesive process. Um, is there? Do you have any views on, like, how one element might add stress to another element, which would then continue the cycle? Um, do you find that the level of cooperation is something that is fairly regular? Just things of this nature.
The one thing that I will say is for it comes down to case files, for me at least. Case files are very, very important. They're a record of the case as it is right now. They're a record of the investigation that was going on. I have seen police archives get flooded before and having a whole ton of information just simply lost to water damage. And I know for a fact that when parole comes up for a few of those cases, they will want and need that evidence box that's currently floating down the river. So I guess I guess I would just like to see more people working in the crime lab. mostly because there's just not enough of us. There never seems to be enough of us, and I get cases stacked that the whole department just can't work with. I've had one particular body just disappear on me, not because it just walked out, but simply because that case was moved to an entirely different crime lab.
Hmm. May I, may I offer you a hypothetical scenario?
Okay.
If it were determined somewhere down the line that the coroner's office and the various um, work that they do were to be joined with the NYPD, for example, would you feel um, would you feel satisfied with the idea of actually being acknowledged as an officer of the law, or do you feel like the science element should be a separate entity from the actual law enforcement side of the equation?
I, I'll tell you one thing. I don't like my facts obscured. I don't need any type of authority to do my job. I cut into dead bodies. I present a report at the end of the day. That's just what I do. Having that kind of authority, having a badge to float around, I don't need that to do my job. I really don't. I believe that would just create a layer of complication, and I believe that the science works and stands on its own by adding another title to people that are already spending half their time doing such a job and half their time dead tired. You're not doing anything but complicating their lives needlessly. What I will say is I would like more people in these crime labs. I would like to see better initiatives for these crime labs. I would love to see more scientists, graduate college and find themselves in positions to help law enforcement. But that's not the world we live in.
So, so more attention and financing for critical scientific research.
Not necessarily research, just the lab work. I would love a lab that's at least 10 times larger than what we currently have. I'm currently working on a microscope disc, a centrifuge, as well as a PHP table, all on the same desk.
He jots all of this down. And just to speed things up so that we can add a bit more stuff to the scene, if you like, he asks you a few more very well thought out questions. He's really done his homework for this, including some other tie-in questions to the um, actual court proceedings and other areas of the whole system, um, as a much uh, as a much larger entity. Okay, I think this is great. I I hope my professor improves. Thank you ever so much. And he takes some of his sushi. Um um um.
Yeah. It was good to get it was good to get my perspective out there. At least just a student paper. If you ever see me around the university, don't be a stranger, okay? This was good.
Oh, certainly, thank you very much. If I could just ask, could I please have um, an acceptable method to get a hold of you if my professor wants to confirm anything?
Yeah, sure. Let me write down an email address for you, and Jericho will go ahead and write down a dummy email address.
Thank you. And he'll very, very carefully put the documents in his notebook and set that in his bag. Now then, to the sushi. And he starts to eat. Thank you so much.
Jericho, for his part, the rude interviewee that he was nibbling on a bit of the sushi while he was just making notes for himself. Every so often, he would stop, making a note, and Jericho would take the opportunity and the lull to go ahead and eat a few more of that uncooked fish in those rolls. And after most of the interview was done, Jericho is already through his main portion. Looks to Tom and simply says, yeah. Like I said, if you ever find me in the university, don't be a stranger.
Thank you. I certainly won't.
Jericho, for his part, will go ahead and excuse himself from the scene and walk off for the rest of his night.
And Tom will pay for the meal as promised and head off himself.
All right, and there we end our scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Y'all have a good day.